Professor Horswill, can you hear us?
I certainly can. Yep.
Okay. So I've already told the audience about your most beautiful Queensland and introduce you and your work as well. So please, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. Okay, and thank you very much for having me. And yeah, as I gave a talk on this line of research, I think it's five years ago now. So thanks very much for having me back. Where today I was hoping to share with you some data since my last presentation, which is talking about the effects of our online hazard perception training course. Okay, so just to give you, so my understanding was that there might be a few people who attended the previous course, but there's many people who haven't. So I'll start at the top, and so hopefully not repeating myself too much from last time. But yeah, I was going to give the full lowdown. So my work involves hazard perception in driving, where we generally define this as the ability to predict dangerous traffic situations. And this is something we started studying way back in the late 80s with my PhD supervisor, Frank McKenna from the UK, University of Reading. And essentially the original premise of this was that we went through the literature and we looked at all of the different driving specific skills and looked at correlations with crash involvement. And it was hazard perception that kept coming up again and again as one of the things that could actually predict crash involvement. And hence that's why it's been the focus of my research for the last few decades. So the idea is it's a skill, and it's a skill that we can measure, and it's a skill that seems to be amenable to change as well. In terms of theoretically, what we think is going on here is we've always conceptualized hazard perception as basically situation awareness on the road, as drivers having a mental representation of the traffic environment. And the people who are the best at hazard perception are those people who have a much more sophisticated, richer representation of this traffic environment, which allows them to make more sophisticated and more accurate predictions as to, for example, what will happen next in any given situation. So with this mental model, we hypothesize that people would have a more efficient visual search, so they're more likely to be looking at areas where dangers might emerge. They have a better understanding of things that may not actually be in view yet, and therefore ready to respond to them. And they have a better understanding of what other road users are likely to do, and therefore less likely to run into problems. And so hence, when we've looked at the best ways to train hazard perception, they generally focused around attempts to improve the sophistication of this model. Okay, so generally we're trying to give the generally novice drivers insights into how, say, an expert driver might see the road environment and how they might make the predictions that they do make. Okay, so we did research over many years where we had various individual basic video-based training exercises to improve hazard perception skill. And basically we got to a point where we basically wanted to bring all of these together in one online hazard perception training package where people did a number of these training exercises, and with the idea that this was something that was actually practical and could actually be done by anyone anywhere. And so it's there and it's actually available online. And so in terms of this is a screenshot from the course. And so essentially it's a MOOC. Anyone can do this from anywhere in the world. And the full version requires a PC, but we do have another version with a few less features that runs on any platform. But essentially, the focus is on using video footage of either crashes or near crashes or traffic conflicts. And the idea is of this is that often when we do normal driver training, you can conceptualize driving training as trying to teach drivers how to avoid crashes. But our thinking was that in normal driver training, drivers are very rarely seeing, or hopefully never seeing, the things that we're trying to train them to avoid. So one of the ideas behind this training is that we now have loads of videos, real life videos of real life crashes. Why don't we use those as training materials so we can actually show novices exactly what we want them to learn to avoid? So we use this video footage, and then we're focusing on this skill that predicts crash risk, i.e. hazard perception. The idea is by doing this thing, the other thing we involved in this course was exercises that encourage people to transfer what they learn in these videos to real life. So one of our concerns was, of course, people might get very better at hazard perception in an artificial off-road environment, for example, in a video-based hazard perception test, but maybe it doesn't affect what they do in the real world. So in this training course, we included that. And then, then we use various strategies, usually most of them from the deliberate practice expertise literature, basically known techniques from psychological research to make sure these technique, what we're teaching people is more likely to be retained into the long term. Okay, so I'm going to play the video. So this is the one where it might be a bit jerky over Zoom, but hopefully you'll get the gist of what's going on. So I'm going to play you 3 of our video-based exercises, and this is the first one, which is called the What Happens Next exercise. In this exercise, we're going to play a video of it's either a crash or a near miss, and the video will cut to black just before the crash happens, and then the trainee is supposed to then verbally out loud say, list as many predictions as possible as to what might happen next. Then they'll get to see the video again, and they'll hear a commentary from an expert driver on the video saying all the things they predict might happen next. And then the final thing is that we then play the video through past that cut point and allow them to see what actually happened. And then the very last thing is we might show them some extra footage of crashes of other things the expert said might happen, and give illustrations of when those actually happened, even if they didn't happen in this particular clip. So let me play this through, and I hope this works for you. Let me know. Actually, I'll just check that the share computer sound. I've got share computer, so hopefully, tell me if you can't hear the audio of this, but hopefully it will work. A cement mixer has just pulled out of the road on the right and the lights are amber. We already know that there is a white car concealed on the far side of the cement mixer. Given that the lights are changing, the cement mixer is already pulling out, and the white car's view of us is likely to be obscured, it's possible that the white car doesn't realise we're here. This means it may well pull out into our path, even though we can infer that it would be entering the intersection illegally because the lights are amber for the camera truck. Just because a manoeuvre is against the road rules doesn't mean that people won't do it. We need to be ready to take evasive action if the white car does decide to pull out. Also, there's a pedestrian waiting to cross at the lights where it's possible they could step out. Even if the pedestrian doesn't step out, they may be at risk if that white car pulls out and vehicles end up off the road as a result. Looking further ahead, there's a road on the left that we ought to monitor in case something emerges from it. The expert predicted a road user might pull out from the left. While this didn't happen in the main clip, here's another clip in which this did happen.
A little like industrial cafe somewhere. I don't know.
Oh! Okay, so I hope that could everybody hear that and more or less see it from your end? Can I just check that was okay? Yeah, is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, it was okay.
Excellent. Okay, in that case, I'll show you another one. So this is another type of exercise called a crash analysis. So in this exercise, we show a video of a crash, and this time the trainee has to basically generate a commentary as to what happened in the crash, why the crash was caused, and how you might avoid similar crashes in the future. And then again, they get the feedback where they hear an expert giving their commentary. And again, it's the idea of, it's about giving the novice an insight into the expert's mental representation of the situation, where the novice's task is to then, in future ones, make their own analysis closer to the expert's analysis and thereby improve themselves. So I'll play you this one.
On Sydney's roads, a breakdown on the another morning of headaches while many towards Sydney at Orimba. An accident just near the Pacific Highway, as mentioned, Sydney bound Toba. Check out the 7-day sale up to $777 worth of free accessories and every Kia Plus with 7-year warranty. Hurry, sale into March 20, conditions apply. Phone Sarah, you need to help me. Look, we don't usually do this and come back from here, but Sarah, you need to help me out here because Whipper's just done.
The crash occurred when a heavily loaded flatbed truck ran into vehicles that were stopped on a highway. Other vehicles travelling behind the truck were also involved in secondary collisions. There are a number of things that could prevent this type of crash. First of all, drivers need to be aware of their surrounding environment. There was a sign earlier which warned of the slow traffic. This means that we could anticipate and prepare for a change in the traffic conditions. Another clue was the backed up traffic, which was visible when looking further down the highway. The driver of the flatbed truck needed to be particularly cautious, since heavy vehicles require additional time to brake safely. Other drivers also need to be aware of the longer braking distances of heavy vehicles and give them more space. Following too closely blocks the view of the road ahead and reduces the chance of avoiding unexpected events. The following distances for many of the vehicles in the footage were too close given the speed of the traffic. Okay, and the final one I'm going to show you is called a commentary drive. So this one, by the way, with all these, I've truncated the videos a bit just for the sake of the demonstration, so they're not exactly as you see them, but you've got the main gist. With this one, we show a video, just a video, it's about a minute-long clip, which I've truncated in this for the sake of brevity. And during that clip, the novices are supposed to talk out loud about what they're monitoring, what they're looking for, and what they can see, and what they predict might happen next as the thing progresses. Then they get to see the same clip again, this time with an expert doing the commentary, and so they're actually getting feedback, that insight into the expert's mental model. And then the idea is when they do another one, they've got to try and make their own commentary more like the experts. And again, at the end, we have some examples of crashes, real life crashes, where the sort of things that the expert was talking about actually came to pass in terms of dangers. Get ready to generate a running commentary out loud to the following new clip. Start generating your commentary now. Now it's the expert's turn.
Pedestrians on the left, monitoring. Red car changing lanes ahead, it might cause the silver car to slow down. Traffic lights, intersection ahead. Silver car braking. Street on the left, monitoring. Silver car indicating to change lanes. Lots of oncoming traffic in its way. Will definitely have to stop. Slowing down to stop behind turning vehicle. Monitoring parked cars, oncoming vehicles, pedestrians and traffic lights.
Okay, let's see some example crashes that might result from some of the things that the expert talked about. The expert mentioned monitoring the street on the left. Even though the traffic lights are green, it's still possible that someone might emerge, as they do in this clip. If there's any opportunity to avoid a crash, then we want to be able to take it. The expert noted that there's a vehicle stopped in the lane ahead that requires a camera car to slow or steer in order to avoid this sort of incident. Again, just because there's a green light at this intersection, it doesn't mean that there's no need to monitor left and right. Some people do run red lights, and we want to be ready to take any opportunity we can to avoid being hit when it happens. At this point, the expert noted that the car ahead was slowing to turn right. Here's an example in which a driver failed to notice that someone in front of them had slowed in preparation for the same maneuver.
Brilliant.
Get ready to...
Okay, so I hope that you've got at least a little bit of an idea of what was going on there in our clips and in the thing, and hopefully it came through well enough so you got an idea of it. Okay, so the thing I talked about 5 years ago is when we gave this course to people, we were able to improve their hazard perception score, so in a randomized controlled trial, and that was using one of our hazard perception response time tests, but also a hazard prediction test. Worked on both of those, and this is both situations. This is for novice drivers and learner drivers, and the effects were, we measured them about a week after training. Okay. Two big gaps with this data. So the first one is that we were showing the effects in validated, but they were video-based measures. And the second thing is we're only measuring them a week after people finish the course. And so two key things that we're interested in. One is that do these effects transfer into real driving? And the second one is are they retained beyond this sort of 1 week period. So that's the data I want to talk about today. So we ran this study where essentially we first of all we met up with participants, and this is using their own cars. We installed a GPS tracker and we installed a dash cam. So the dash cam is a G-force triggered dash cam. So it was set up so that basically any time that the driver of the car braked heavily, then the accelerometers in the dash cam basically recorded the previous 20 seconds and the next 10 seconds of video footage and saved it to the memory card. So essentially we ended up with a memory card full of all the video clips of all the times they essentially slammed on the brakes. And the GPS tracker allowed us to basically monitor, and we were able to map that onto speed limits, and it also told us how fast they were going. And so we were able to look at speeding behavior, but also over rev events. So when their basically revs went over 3,000 revs for their engine, which is in the past been considered to be a measure of risky behavior. Okay, so the design of this experiment, first of all, we met them, we installed these things in their vehicle, and then they basically went and did their everyday driving for 4 weeks. So over this period, they're just doing their normal driving. They're not doing anything they wouldn't normally do, but we are measuring all of their driving for every single minute that they're on the road. They did a driving diary, so we knew whether it was them driving or not, but we tried to recruit people where they were the primary driver of the car that these devices were put into. Then we had a second meetup, and in the second meetup, we gave them our usual video tests, including tests of, in this case, our hazard prediction test. And then we randomly assign them to either start the training straight away or go into a waitlist control group who didn't do the training. The people in this, we call them Wave 1, they then went away and did the remaining sessions online. And then at the end of that, 6 weeks later, they came back to the lab and we gave them some more computer-based tests. So this is about 1 week after the training finished. And then we left the devices in their cars for another 8 weeks, after which we brought them back a fourth time and did some final computer tests with them. And that's the point where the people in the waitlist control group were allowed to have a go at the training course, but we didn't monitor them for that. Okay, and yeah, this is what we found. So the graph on the left is the rate of heavy braking events per 1,000 kilometers as measured by the dash cams. And as you can see, so this is a change in events. And so you can see that in our trained group, the rate of heavy braking events significantly decreased compared with the waitlist control group, where unsurprisingly, their rate of heavy braking events didn't change. So that's a significant difference. And on the right-hand side, I'm showing you there is it's a composite score. So we had a number of different measures of speeding. I'll show you on the next slide, but we put them all together just to show that we got the effect overall. And so this overall measure of speeding, breaking the speed limit, again, the trained group were significantly reduced in their amount of speeding compared with the waitlist control. So that is, our hazard perception training course has reduced the number of heavy braking events. Okay, and we presume that's a signal that they are better at hazard perception because it's reducing the need for them to slam on their brakes. And they're also engaging in less speeding behavior. In terms of the specifics of the speeding behavior, that's what I've got on these four graphs. So we looked at the change in speeding rate, so the number of times they broke the speed limit per 1,000 kilometers, that went down. We looked at the rate of speeding, excessive speeding, more than 5 kilometers an hour over the speed limit, that went down as well. We looked at the change in speeding magnitude. So that is, when they broke the speed limit, how much did they break it by? That went down as well. And finally, the change in speed as a percent of the posted speed limit, that also decreased. So basically, for pretty much every measure that we looked at, we got a significant improvement in our trained group. Okay, yeah, and we also got a significant effect for the over revs as well. I didn't put the graph in for that. Okay, the other thing we looked at was the longer term effects of the hazard perception. So this is after the 8 weeks, we looked at the effects on our hazard perception, hazard prediction test score. So this is where we measured them at baseline before the training. We'd measured them about 1 week after the training, and then we measured them nearly 10 weeks after they finished the training. And yeah, this is where we're using our hazard prediction test, where we show them a clip, it cuts to black, very much like the training users saw, but this one's a test version where they get no feedback, and has been found to predict crashes and sort of can tell apart novice and experienced drivers. And yeah, in this thing, what we did was we had 6 clips that we used at all the time points, and then at each additional time point we introduced novel clips just to see if we got transfer to new clips. And basically we found training effects across both at the short term and the medium term, both for the clips that were repeated and for the novel clips. So we're getting significant training effects across all situations, into all the way through to the 10 weeks following the training. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we've got effects on road, and we've got shown effects at least into the medium term. So we're pretty happy with that. In terms of what we're up to at the moment, we've recently completed a study where we looked at the training course effect for drivers over age 65. So our research up to date has been on novice drivers. Second thing we're looking at is to see whether the training course has different effects for different people, looking at effects of individual differences. And in the future, we've got proposals in about looking at the training effect of the training on fleet drivers. and also whether we can make the training more accessible for drivers who might find generating a verbal commentary challenging. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Thanks very much for listening, and very happy to take any questions if there's time.